I was doing $20 million in business. I was thinking I was pretty damn smart. I was making a lot of money, and he smoked me in 2 hours. I grew that from 0 to 5 years, and in 2020, we sold 40 million in services. So I'm just an electrician by trade. I'm just using a phone, the lights, everything. But you know what? I built a $40 million coaching company with that.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalists, where I have conversations with business owners who've done at least $1 million a year in the business, and many times there are people who've done a lot more. Today I've got with me Mike Agugliaro. Now, I hope I pronounced that correctly. We met through some really high-level masterminds, and what I remember is that every interaction I've ever had with Mike, I feel like it was extremely intentional, and he knew what the heck he was talking about. Whether it was about having a meaningful conversation or the food he's eating or how to, kill someone with a weapon. So, Mike, I hope that my impression of you, that was really my first impression. I just wanted to say that. I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's had years of experience. He's right now working, he's doing something called FuDog Group. Mike, I'm going to hand this over to you. Could you explain a little bit about FuDog Group? What is that? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, awesome. And I'm glad to be here, Ken. You got my name pretty close. It's Agugliaro, but you know what? The Italians put so many extra words in there to throw people off like this snake trail. So don't feel bad. Nobody gets it right. And I love your intro of people who've done like $1 million or more. And I say this as humbly as possible. I'm the one who has done a lot more. And I want to bring some maybe light to that, especially since I love
this. So this is like, we're talking about mid 8 figures and stuff, right?
Yeah. High 8 figures.
Okay. High 8 figures. Okay.
Yeah.
Twice.
Because I built, I built 2 companies. And the first company I built, so anybody listen to this, I'm just an electrician by trade. So I'm the guy that would come to your house and fix your lights if they're broken. And I did that for many years. And I did it wrong for many years. I couldn't grow a company. I had all the crap excuses everyone had. You can't find good help. And then finally, I started to study marketing. And it was really Dan Kennedy, who's kind of like the godfather of marketing. He did something at an event I was at, Ken. He said, hey, what business are you in? And I said, I'm the electrical business. In the end, he said, nah, everybody's in the business of marketing. And that changed my life forever. And that put me on a quest to learn marketing, which then I took this electrical business, Ken. It was just me and a partner, 2 guys in a truck fixing stuff, killing themselves 6-7 days a week. And then in a 10-year period, I took it from under $1 million to 32 million a year, double-digit profit, 200 employees, 165 trucks. If you're listening and you've ever been to New Jersey, all over New Jersey. And in 2017, part of my plan was I was building it, but I was also evolving. I sold it in 2017. That's not impressive. Look, people sell big companies all the time, but I signed my name, Ken, and I walked away the next day.
So you didn't have to do, what do you call it, an earn-out or anything like that, or seller financing?
No, it was called super smart out, I guess, or something. Like it was built by design, not by default. And I was very strategic about it. I knew it. Plus, look, you know me for quite a few years. Like I'm not a good employee, and I'm a pretty rogue human. I'm really intense. I'm very relentless. Most people that know me, especially if they met me at an event or a group, like I'm the guy making like 900 million notes there. I'm laser focused, and I know exactly where I want to go to build something. So that was by design. And, so was the other company I built, which was called CEO Warrior, which was, it started out as a coaching company, but then it turned into a training and implementation organization. And just to share with some of the people of what the scale of that was, like I grew that from 0 to 5 years. And in 2020, we sold 40 million in services. So we pretty much broke almost every boundary out there. And then in the middle of a pandemic, when everyone else was freaking out, I sold that company for a big, I don't even know if you knew that. I sold that company for a bigger win than the service company I sold.
Well, I wasn't aware of when it happened, but when you stopped posting stuff on social media about that and then started coming up with FuDog, I was like, okay, this is a different direction. And then I kind of picked up, from bits and pieces that you had sold that business and exited, because since COVID hit, we've never met in person, right? We've only met, pre-COVID, which is 2019. I think that's the last time we met in person. And I do remember, like, we're sitting in these workshops, and you've got Disney next to you, right? Mike Disney.
Yeah.
And you said that you're laser focused about everything. I remember you're just taking notes, and you just, like, he's your SOP guy. I don't know how it works, but he's there just setting things in motion already. So by the time most of the audience is just picking up their notes and going out to have a drink, you've already got someone at home base creating a plan or starting a plan that you put into motion, and then you'll quickly figure out if that works or not. And I was super impressed with that, and I was like, I've got to find out more about this guy, and I'm glad I did. Now,
and and you got it right. I think there's a lot for people to learn from that, Ken. Is like right now while you're listening, a lot of people are taking notes, which is fine, but you should take notes with action items, and like you shouldn't. It's like, don't go to the next step on the game board until you execute it on something. So this is going to be a powerful episode, I know already. And like, write down something. If it's that one thing if you picked up like, and a friend of mine, Dean Jackson says, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. But my friend Brian Kurtz says marketing's the only thing. So if you just walk away and go, wait a minute, I better listen to every episode Ken has. I better master the art of content marketing and everything. Or the second half, execution. Wait a minute. Mike said the minute this episode's done, I better have somebody to send something to get something done. And I think that's really important. A lot of people don't function that way. And I'm still in equity. I'm still a shareholder in CEO Warrior. CEO Warrior is, for anybody in the world that's in a plumbing, HVAC, electric company or anything like that, and they want to grow their service business, it's the best place in the world to go. Ken, I didn't sell any of the companies, and this is a big thing because people listening are someday going to want to sell something. Everybody's going to exit a company. No matter what, you're going to exit, right? Like, you're going to sell it. You might hand it down to somebody. You might die, or you might go out of business, but like everyone's going to exit the company. But what most people don't tell you is the exit happens at your own evolution. Like, I knew when I was growing a big service company, like my life was already changing, but all my friends, and this is why you're doing this, I'm sure, like you probably have friends and people on here that are suffering. So you're taking your time. What time is it where you're at now?
Right now it's 9:45 a.m. almost.
Okay. And it's almost 9 p.m. And like, why are we taking our time? Same reason I started CEO Warrior is I was winning, but others were suffering. And then when I did CEO Warrior, my goal was to change an industry. And everybody that's listening, you should write down, no matter what you learn today, write down the word movement. Movement is such a big thing. We could dig deeper into it. The second word I'll tell you, which is one of my favorite words, which is mastery, right? And as the evolution, when I started working with service companies, after like 6 years, I changed service companies. And you know what happened, Ken? I was creating millionaires and people were getting divorced. I was creating millionaires and they were getting unhealthy. And I said, this was never the purpose of my life, was not to make people. And then COVID came in and people with like anxiety and pressure and guilt and like this went through the roof. So again, I was evolving. So just so you know, building FuDog was not because I wanted to, it's because it was a need that somebody had to step into and help people not freak out and give them the opportunity to shift their thinkings in new ways.
Yeah, makes sense. Hey, look, I want to take us back just a little bit. I'm going to come back to FuDog. right now in a sec. But when you were, so you had the first business, there's your electrician and the repair business, right? The maintenance business, and then CEO Warrior. Now, what time frame was that when you started your first business?
Well, I started my first business in 94, which put me at 24 years old. Okay. That's when Gold Medal Electric was formed. Now, I've been on my own since I'm 15, so I've been out there a long time. I had other business I was doing, just not formal, where it was me and this partner. So it was 94. And then we did it wrong for 12 years. And then due to math, 2017, we were,
What specifically did you do? You mentioned Dan Kennedy, and then you said you started marketing. So give us some examples. Were you doing billboards? Were you doing drops? Or were you doing like mailbox drops? Were you cold calling? Tell me about that. What was the thing that you were doing that other people either were unwilling to do or just didn't think of?
Yeah. I think the first thing, and this might sound a little different, but I'm going to go into the tactical for you. I think the first thing that people are unwilling to do is face what they're doing now and the future it's going to create. And let me explain that to you, because there was two catalytic things that happened in my life that made me first, even knowing I had to make all these strategies we're going to talk about in a minute, a demand versus an option. One was my son was being born, my first child. And I was working 7 days a week, and I knew I was going to be like my dad. I'm never going to be around. I was just going to work a million hours. That was a catalytic event. Matter of fact, the night he was still in the hospital when he was born, I went home and I put together, Ken, one of these like gliding rocking chairs for my wife. So when she came home and breastfed and all that stuff. And I remember after building it, sitting in that rocking chair, and maybe some of you listening could relate to this, and just breaking down crying and saying in my mind, oh my God, I'm going to be like my dad. Hard worker, never home. So that was the first thing. Second catalytic event was my business partner coming in and saying, hey, I'm done. I thought we used to eat off these things called lunch trucks. Like it's like they used to pull up on a job. I thought he had a case of the craps. And that was the second one that I thought, man, like one, we're killing ourselves. Two, my partner wants to quit. That's when it comes. So first thing, before you could go to tactical, what we're going to talk about, billboards, direct mail, outbounding, you have to first know that what you're doing now, what the cost of inaction is costing you. The cost of inaction is costing you money. The cost of inaction is costing you a deeper relationship. The cost of inaction is causing you to not have the health you want or the love you want. So now let's get to the tactical things. The tactical things.
One thing. Were you as intense then as you are now? With
actually worse.
But worse. But it was just like the intensity wasn't as directed or as focused as it is now. Am I right?
I was intensely angry, Ken. I was angry at the world. I was on my own at 15. I was forced into intensity, because when you're on your own, you either become, and I think this plays true today with the world and the state it's in, you have a choice to be a victor or a victim. And so I was forced. Now, I was as intense, but I was very angry intense. I thought the world was against me. And what I didn't realize until I've been doing martial arts, me and you talked about, I still want to go to Musashi's cave. I was just talking to my son today in Japan. I still want to go there. But, when I started, I've been doing martial arts since I'm 15, and I'm level 52 now. So it's well over 3 decades. And, that's only until I started to learn that things weren't happening to me, they were happening for me, was I able to take the anger out of the intensity and turn it into pure energy and power. So, yeah. Most people, like you wouldn't have wanted me on the show when I was 18, right? Like I'm not the guy you see today. Yeah.
Well, you're here now, and that's what matters. Yeah. Well, thanks for that little, and I love that we were able to just visit that, because I was truly curious. Is there something that switches in some people that the intensity comes on, or is it something that's innate? Like kind of, I guess for you is the the way you were nurtured and at the age of 15, or not nurtured in your case, that just brought that out of you.
And my instructor Ken taught me. I was in with my one instructor for 19 years, and he's really the one instructor is the one who really turned me on to mastery. And first, it starts out mastery of motion, right? Like knowing how to. And I love your intro in the middle. I'm like the John Wick of business or something, but like, mastery of motion, right? Like being able to just understand movements and stuff. And then there's like mastery of force, and then there's mastery of like body movement, and there's mastery of breathing, and all of that for probably a decade took me to only one awakening. Mastery of self creates anything you want. And if you are filled with chaos, confusion, shame, guilt, traumas, then you're not mastering yourself. That's why people ask me, they go, what's the difference between you and like somebody who has, that's struggling to ever get to $1 million? Like, what's the difference? I say one thing: the ability to remove resistance and reprogram their mind. That's what made me do this. I got to send you a copy of it. I just, Mind Power. I just came out, it's just a couple of months ago, I just came out with this book. It's my first book on the mind. The other 17 or 18 books I wrote were all business books, and they're great books, but this needs to be the first book, because without understanding, and when I sign the book, I say your mind is your superpower. Without understanding that, you're stuck in your jail cell.
Absolutely. And for those of you that might be listening to the audio and not watching this video, I want to describe the man that's in front of me right now, and he's covered in tattoos. He's got he's got his branding on his shirt. It says FuDog Group, and he's the type of guy that I love your smile, by the way, because if you didn't have a permanent smile on your face, if I saw you walking down the street, I'd go and cross, because I'd wonder what's this guy's intentions. You walk with a huge amount of confidence, and just literally. That intention that you have, the intensity, I feel like it's this wall of energy that's like a meter in front of you wherever you go. That's literally what I feel when you're around. And the smile makes it like, okay, I could go and shake his hand, give him a hug, and that totally disarms the the negative connotations around that. So I just wanted to describe the aura you've got for those listening. Now, we're just about, and before I interrupt you, and I apologize, we're just about to go into some of the tactics you did when you're with that first company, and what were you doing in the marketing realm?
Yeah. So let me help people understand the tactics to think about. So first, there's only a certain amount of like money to purchase things versus resources that you could execute on that might not cost money. I'll explain those two. The very first thing I did was I took a map, and you could do this in any business, of if it's a brick and mortar or virtual, it doesn't matter, or digital. I took a map for me of the state of New Jersey, and I said, okay, here's where I am. And I put a stake right in the ground and said, okay, I want to own this 1 mile radius. So that's the first step. You have to know. See, so many people try to cast such a wide net. Instead of going deep first, they try to go wide, and then they don't catch anything because the net's stretched out too far versus laser focused deep. And then I took my budget, which was not a lot then, and I said, what could I do? And I'll tell you something, this is going to sound like so to people like, oh yeah, I know it. But then I'm going to be like, do you do it? Like, let's use business cards, for example. This was a big strategy for me. And it's so funny, Ken, when people get successful or a level of success, they stop doing what helped them get to where they are. And like, I'll do, like, if I'm talking to a group, like I just talked to 350 people live, which was, Ken, amazing, because like I miss seeing you in person. In a couple weeks, I'm going to talk to 1,100 live, and I'm like, oh, it's such a breath of fresh air. But like, you ask people like, who has a business card? And most people pull out one or two or raggedy little thing. And I go, okay, but how many did you hand out today? And you get maybe 1 or 2. You see, when you started in business, I handed out 50 to 100. I was like driving through a Dunkin' Donuts, like, thank you for the iced tea. Here's a business card. Go to Walgreens for Tylenol. Thank you for this. Here's a business card. right? I was sticking them in the aisles in Walgreens, right? If I went to Barnes and Noble, I went to areas where I thought like the business books, I was sticking business cards in my book. So I mean, for some of you, it might sound like simple, but we didn't have like the digital.
There's no social media back then. That didn't exist, right?
I had a beeper. Maybe some of the people listening don't even know what a beeper is, right? Like I say fortunate enough because I have that perspective of having to go to a payphone and like putting in change and making a call, which was, a really good experience to grow in today. Because when I look at people today, Ken, and they say, oh, it's hard building a business. I go, hard? Let's talk about the newspaper, yellow pages, and payphones. Like that was hard in my world. Maybe it was even harder back in my dad's world or his father's world before they even had any of that stuff. But, for me, it was that and partnerships. And I didn't know partnerships like I knew today. Mm-hmm. Like today, I really understand how to create affiliate partnership. Back then, I didn't know. But I did things like, it's about someone else. And this is, Jay Abraham talks about this all the time. I worked with Jay Abraham for 3.5 years as my one-on-one coach. And most people are like, wow. I said, no, you don't understand why. Let me tell you why. First off, yes, he's the highest paid consultant on earth. And Ken, I don't even know if I shared this with you, but I had a half a day with him and a couple people. And in 2 hours of the half day, he burned my brain out. I was doing $20 million in business. I was thinking I was pretty damn smart. I was making a lot of money, and he smoked me in 2 hours. And in 2 hours in, he goes, Mike, most people after about a couple hours, they can't take much more. And in martial arts, like in UFC, like when someone's arm's breaking, you're slapping out. I was like slapping out. He's like, we'll just do calls after. When I left, I was with my business partner, Rob. I said two things. I said, one, holy crap, what did he just say? And number two, I knew it was brilliant. I said, I must master this guy. I must be able to get to a point where I could be in a room on a stage next to him and hold my own. I trained with him for 3.5 years to be able to do that. And anybody knows him, he gets like $120,000 a day or something. So I invested.
I think it's more. Yeah.
It's probably more now. But if you want to master, so one, business cards, two, affiliates, non-competing people that would refer you and you would refer them to a simple partnership. It is the number one strategy, Jay says. It's a zero out-of-pocket strategy to grow your business, right? After that, I was a big believer, I'm still a believer in direct mail. Laser-focused direct mail is a big strategy for me. And then as I started to make more money, what I did was in that circle, I used to call it like stealing the oxygen from that circle, like just imploding it. So I used to, direct mail, billboard, TV, yard sign, trucks parked. My whole theory was when I wanted people in New Jersey in that area, Ken, I wanted them when they closed their eyes at night to see my yellow and black trucks in their mind. And it's no different today. I mean, look, I built CEO Warrior, which was pretty much all digital marketing. And I built it by brute force. And FuDog Group, which is, changing the world. We're heading into our second year, it's brute force content execution. I believe at its finest for what we're doing,
I believe it too. Now, when we're going to go, I want to talk about CEO Warrior in just a second.
Yeah.
But in your first business, do you remember like what percentage of your monthly revenue did you put back into marketing? Because I'd imagine billboards everywhere. I guess you probably invested in getting into some types of like associations or groups where you could access the right kind of people. Do you remember what you're spending?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when I didn't know how to do marketing, I was probably like 1%, right?
Okay. Yeah.
My rule of thumb when I was growing, and we could talk about the CEO Warrior and other stuff, but my rule of thumb back then was 10% was conservative growth. that was like you wanted to grow at a rate of speed that you knew you could keep the wheels on the bus. 10 to 15% was semi-aggressive, which means you were willing to push, and if the wheels started to fall off some, you were okay. And 20% was a punch the market right in the face. I'll share a lesson I learned. One, I did 10 to 15 based on what I thought the emotion of the demographic needed strategically. I did do one thing that everybody should listen and never do. I thought that I could outmarket an election, the Obama election. I thought I could outmarket it. Here's the answer to everybody. You can't outmarket an election. I was doing TV and billboard, and I didn't pull back at all. And in hindsight, I would never do that again. And that was it's probably about 16% marketing, which for me was millions. Like I did millions of dollars in TV.
So what you're trying to say is like during the elections, like if you were to do it again, you would just ramp down all your marketing because the reach wouldn't be there?
I would go ramping down, but moving over. Like today,
channels that the election is not advertising on. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Facebook groups where they're not worried about the election, or your email list. It's probably not where you have a direct, your YouTube, like anywhere you created a tribe in a circle of people you can market to.
So this is your warm audience and nurturing and that type of marketing, right? Got it.
Yeah. Stay away from the cold.
Would the same apply to, let's say, like the Super Bowl and Olympics?
Yeah, I think I'll tell you it was a little different for the Olympics. I did a campaign during the one Olympics where I did a whole program which was called Go for the Gold. And the winner of it, this is at the Gold Medal, the service company, the winner of it was going to win an ounce of gold, which at that time, I never held an ounce of gold. And when I got it, I almost didn't want to do the contest. I wanted to keep it. It's so smooth and so silky and beautiful. And that worked because we were able to kind of ride on it a little bit. Not as hard as, the Olympics has pretty much an emotional pull in most of the world. Like we know there's thoroughbreds trying to win. In an election, there's a polarity and you're trying to stay out of the collision. So two different entities, but I would rather market during the Olympics than any polarity of force against force,
Yeah, got it. So right now I just looked up Gold Medal Service New Jersey, and it goes to goldmedalservice.com. Is that the company that you originally started and it's still going? That's really cool.
Oh, and not only they going, when I sold it, I was doing 32 million. I was tracking to do 40 million. They bought a bunch of other companies, and I think maybe to today, they're probably doing 350 million or more.
Do you ever think that maybe you should have held on to it? Does that ever cross your mind?
No, never crosses my mind.
Good.
Not because, you know what, Ken, and you know me long enough, like, money has been a byproduct of serving the world. And I never did it for money. I did it for impact and change. And I knew they tried to keep me on. I could have stayed on, and they were smart people. I knew they'd do bigger, but then you're staying there for the money, not for your evolution. And I tell everybody, like, if you're still doing what you're doing the same way you're doing it after 10 years, you're probably in a state of complacency and you haven't grown. Because if you've grown, you would be doing it very different, at a different level, in a different way, until you evolve out. And I'll tell you what, it's so interesting, Ken, because I won't do it here, I can name a whole bunch of my friends that everybody on here would know, marketers, business builders. And if I name them all, I've been friends 10 years, I watched them all go through the second evolution. They're going through it now. And I'm like, yep. That's what happens.
Yeah. Join the FuDog group.
that will help. I hope, but I'm not here to sell. Look, let me tell people a little bit, like, you know, FuDog Group is an interesting thing because after I sold CEO Warrior, Ken, I started to look at people and say to myself, wait a minute, like, let's look at employees. Okay, I'm sure you got people on here that have employees. I had hundreds, over 200 of them. It's a lot of employees to have. And when good employees turned into bad employees, there was one key thing that was happening in their world. Life was spiraling out of control. They had a relationship problem. They had some kind of addiction problem. They had some kind of family problem. They had it was always life. When I had clients, Ken, and clients went from great clients to not great clients, I know you must have had it too. You get that call. You're like, you were a great client. Where are you? They're like, I'm getting divorced. I'm sick.
Yep.
And I started putting the pieces together and saying, hang on a minute here. Everybody's investing in business training. And I think that's important. I really do. I think you need it. But you can only capitalize on the business at the ability to capitalize yourself. That's why, like a lot of people, and I'm sure you heard it, you heard this 10X, right? 10X.
Yep.
I think it's a great strategy. I think it makes a lot of sense. Here's my take on it. You can't 10X anything unless you 20X yourself. Period. At least that's my reality. I have never been able to 10X anything until I 20X myself. And when I look back, Ken, and I go, why was I able to build, and I mean, I sold 2 high 8-figure businesses in a 5-year period. Like, how was I able to do it? You know what? I never did business my whole life. I did a balance between personal development and growth, right? Removing things that, look, I lived with shame. I lived with shit. I was a successful guy carrying guilt. You're guilty, you're successful, and others aren't. And like, I had to learn how to modify, change. And the way I put it, Ken, you're pretty young. So do you remember a Commodore 64 computer?
Yeah, I do actually. Oh. I never owned one, but that was that's that home computer. The one that took over the market.
It was like an original computer. I only had one friend that could make it do things, and some of you might be too young, but it was like one of the first things, like next to Atari or something. I think Atari was after it. And if you look at people today, they're running their life off of a Commodore 64 mind. And then the second thing is, like, if you had a brand new MacBook Pro, which is, I'm a Mac user, so if I had a MacBook Pro and it had a virus, would you download a new software onto a computer that has a virus? No, you wouldn't do it. Well, most people in their mind have a sense of programming that is holding them back from their greatest success that they ever wanted. And it's not as easy. Like, people used to tell me, I had family members, Ken, they used to go, you got to think positive. And I was like, I'm positively pissed off at you. It's very positive. Like, you can be positively angry, right?
Yeah. I think that what people are doing is they're trying to, instead of reprogramming, like you said, from the core, they're just putting more layers of what they call personal development or improvement. And what it's going to do is it's going to mask it. It's going to make you feel better in the moment. But that underlying thing, it's like playing Jenga on a, it's just, you can keep getting higher and higher, supposedly, until you reach some kind of critical mass. And one little imbalance is going to knock you off balance. Yep. And I've had that happen to me too, actually. I really have. And this is a different realm, but in weightlifting, I just started having this horrible pain in my left arm. And then I had someone have a look at it, and they're just like, oh, dude, you got to go down to like half the weight, and you got to fix your form. And this tiny little adjustment on my shoulder position. And it took me a long time to get back up there, but it was just a bad habit on my shoulder position when I was lifting. So I think that analogy kind of carries over a little bit. Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And everything you say makes tons of sense. I think the audience is going to appreciate all of this, even though we're not directly talking about content. The thing that I find about any content that's put out, whether it's from you or anybody else, is the ability to, with 110, 100, 200% conviction to speak, has everything to do with how congruent what's coming out of your mouth is with what you feel right here. And how wide that channel is. Some people do have a connection, but it's like sipping through a straw, trying to breathe through a straw, and a little bit comes out, and they filter it. There's a preamble, and then there's something else, and then they want to apologize to so and so and reference this thing, and they're trying to put all these stilts around what it's probably a great idea. Whereas if you just open up that throttle and have a direct line and not need to filter yourself, much like you, that's powerful stuff. And people feel it. People feel it, right? Yeah. And the hack, and I don't know if this is a hack, but this is just, I'd say, a realization, is the videos that do really well, and whether it's video or copywriting, doesn't matter so much to me, is there's a 3-step process. Like the photons enter your eyeballs, right? Your brain deciphers what these light signals are, whether it's a word spelled out someone's face or something, and then you're somewhere in your gut, you feel something, whether it's you're bored, excited, scared, angry, happy, loved. And the closer the quicker that the process happens, the more likely someone's going to watch or engage. Yeah. And they could feel it just through the intonation in your voice, the look in your eyes, or a lot of times it's the first thing that comes out of your mouth. What does it mean to the person watching? And the wider that throttle is, that channel way, the faster it's going to happen for the viewer.
And this is all, everybody that's listening, if you really go back and listen to this again, it's all content understanding. Without clarity of yourself, you can never go out there and create content that will magnetize and bring people to you. Like, and everything, all content is a reflection of you. If you have uncertainty, your content, no matter how good it is, whoever writes it, is going to have uncertainty. So when you think about building your content, I always go like this. How congruent is it with my truth that I want? And I never waver from integrity. I never tell anybody this can do something it can't do. I never try to direct somebody in a direction that I don't believe makes sense for them. And it's probably very different, Ken, than most people out there. I mean, I just had a call with someone today, and I said, before we even get started, let's just be clear on something. Like, I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to share things and see if there's a fit. And if there's not a fit, well, then I'll find a way to help and serve you. And sometimes they're not a fit. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to send you a book and I'm going to make a contact. So when you're building content, they have to feel that level of integrity. If that's your brand, if your brand's, I guess, lack of integrity, then that's okay. No judgments, but you have to be able to do that. It's same thing with honor. Like when somebody looks at my brand, I'd like to think all my brands, they go, okay, there's honor in this. There's caring in this. This person really wants me to do good. I mean, I had a guy today that joined my Freedom Tribe program, Ken. And when I told him the price, he went, that's it? I said, you're making it sound like I should charge. He goes, I thought it'd be 3 times more. I said, well, it doesn't have to be 3 times more. I could do it 3 times more, but I don't have to because I've run the business numbers. I just need it to do what it needs to do to make sense. And the person was like, I'm in now. Him and his wife were like, I'm in. And that was the biggest thing, Ken, for me. Now, over 8 years teaching plumbers, HVAC electricians. Then, okay, in 2020, we did 35, Ken, 3-day events. 35. That's a lot of 3-day events. The majority of them was one side of the relationship coming. So like the plumber's wife's not going to come and learn marketing and sales. So guess what? Big problem. All of a sudden, one side's growing and the other side's not. So as people are thinking, you're like, well, Mike, what's this have to do with content? Well, content has to be able to not only make sense to the avatar you're speaking to, it also has to make sense to the avatar they're going to explain it to, right? Because when someone goes to buy something of any substance from copy or marketing or anything you build, and this is a big misconception I see everybody do, to funnel for the person. I'm doing the funnel for the person and the person's person. That might be the wife, the partner, the business partner. Most people don't think like that. And that's why I've been able to be successful, is because I'm not talking to one, I'm talking to the circumference of many that they're going to interact with.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually, you could take it a step further. I have a friend who has a course coaching to help people break porn addiction, and they target the wives exclusively. And all the ads are targeted at that because they're the ones who feel the most, hurt or they feel hurt by their husband's, actions. So yeah, you can take it a step further. Now, I'm looking at right now, I know you've sold CEO Warrior by now, but while you're there, you built that YouTube channel, the podcast. I see a bit of activity on Instagram and Twitter. Tell me about what was the intention or the motivation that got you to start the podcast and the YouTube channel, and then how did that work out?
I started the podcast because a lot of people were saying do a podcast. I didn't know any better when I did it. And when I started it, look, it's tough in the beginning. It's a grind. Like, I had people and they would say, well, how many listeners do you have? And I'm like, none. It's the first one. They're like, oh, if you don't have 40,000 listeners, like, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, and I'll tell you something. I made a rule of thumb. Anybody listen to this? I don't care if you have one person listens. If I have time, I'll be on your podcast for you. Because
thank you.
If there's a message for one. So that's the first thing. It was a grind in the beginning because people didn't want to do it. The second thing was I did move up pretty quickly because once one person was on it, other became on it. So I was able to get Brian Tracy, Larry Wingett, Joe Polish, Dean Jackson, Jay Abraham, like really legends in the world. I was able to get on it. In the end, I gotta tell you, I got burnt out from doing them, and I stopped doing them. I love going on other people's podcasts, but the whole task, even as easy as it was, and this will, it's funny because everybody's heard my success, but like I never, like someone asked me the other day, they were like, well, how should we connect? You want to send me your calendar link? And I'm like, you're giving me a lot of credit. Like, I don't have a calendar link. And my team's like, we should really get you on a calendar link. And I'm like, I don't want to function that way in life. And with the podcast, it was always like I had to function. I'm really good. Like, that's why I checked in. I'm like, Ken, are we doing this? You're like, yeah. I'm like, I am like always on point. But I do think people that are doing it, it's a huge value for them if they did it right. I did take, I thought this was cool. I mean, I took a whole bunch of podcasts and created it was called Wealthy Something series. And I put like 5 of the best podcasts, created a series of books out of it. And that was really good as part of the funnel. Like, would you like this book on the top 5 things that can do this for you? So maybe that's a little bit of help for some people.
Sure. And this YouTube channel, is that mostly podcast content, or I'm looking at some things that look like they're taken out of the podcast, some other like clips from your events and things like that?
The majority of the YouTube was stuff that I was filming. I am like I'm a creator, right? Yeah. Like when I sold CEO Warrior, I created in a 5-year period, I think it was 2,020 pieces of intellectual property. I mean, well, you watched me at the events. Like I was just a machine creating stuff. Yep. And most of the YouTube that I built was either strategically leveraged for something then uploaded in YouTube. Like maybe I was leveraging it. It was an event or it was something to get my people in my programs to the event, put that on YouTube. But today, I normally, what I do is I'll record, I'm not super fancy, but I'm normally right here. I'll record like 10, 15, 20 videos, send it off to the team. They package it with an intro. We transcribe it. We do all the stuff I'm sure you teach. And we leverage all of that for massive value. But I go in spurts with that. But I love producing that type of stuff.
Yeah. No, what you said is super cool, because I think the biggest obstacle that stops people from getting started is they want all the fanciness, right? There was I have a friend who's doing about 7 million a year, and she's doing super well in her coaching business. And she brought me on to help her, get started. And she's like, oh, wait, hold on. I got to get my studio set up. So 2 months go by. Okay, it's all set up. Oh, wait, I got to go get a coach to help me perform better. Oh, wait, I got to get and I'm like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I cannot believe how much she cares that her hair is a certain shade of a color, rather than just speak your truth. You're amazing on stage. I've seen you on stage. We've spoken in person. Get in front of the camera and JFID, right? JFDI. And I have another client that we just recently brought on, and she bought the gear that, like, she said, what should I use? I sent her a gear list, and she bought it from Amazon. And the day she was supposed to shoot, the camera drops and smashes into pieces. Her 8-year-old daughter smashes it. And she goes, well, we're on schedule. So she sets up her phone. She shoots it anyway. And that led to a $100,000 launch about a week later. Just that was the sales video. Yeah. So the contrast between these two, I'm like, it's night and day. Just start. And you can, the gear is the reward. Even though I do sell some, a kit that does this, but it's the reward. If you're not already making money, you probably shouldn't buy it. Your content has to be converting. You have to know your message. You have to be congruent, and you have to know that, like, there is a message that's inside of you that is like, it's gonna bust out. So put the camera there and let it capture it, and then let's let people watch it over and over.
Yeah. What's funny about that? So when I was first, I'm one of those people, spent 2 years, bought 3. Now we're talking when it was flip recorders, I think they had.
Is this CEO Warrior?
This was CEO, pre getting ready for CEO Warrior.
Okay.
Like, I had flip recorders and little lapels with cords, and I did nothing with it. And I don't know who it was. I was somewhere, I wish I could remember who did it, but I was around somebody. I was like, I'm trying to get ready for video. And he goes, what do you mean you're trying? I was like, I got the flip and this. And he goes, give me your phone. And he takes my phone and he flips it and he goes, ready, talk. And he holds it. And I'm like, what do you want me to say? He's like, say anything. And I was like, hey, everybody, nice to meet you. He hangs it up. He goes, I got good news and I got bad news. What do you want? I said, give me the bad news. He said, that's effing horrible. I said, well, what's the good news? He said, the second one cannot possibly be as bad as that one. And that changed my life. All of you should go back in my YouTube channel, and you should go back as far as you can and find the video. Oh, man. And I have a really funny one. I'll have to just show you. But find the video of when I called myself the business ninja. And I was like holding a watermelon. I'm in my backyard. I'm just using a phone, the lights, everything. But you know what? I built a $40 million coaching company with that. And I even did one a long time ago. It was this big old profits video. So yeah, I agree with you. But here's what I learned, Ken. Why are people afraid? And I've done a lot of speaker training. I've trained a lot of people how to be high-level speakers. And what I found out is most people fear public speaking more than they fear death. They fear speaking on a video more than they fear dying twice. So you're like, why? They think it's permanent. They think it's permanent. I will tell you, when you get out of yourself, like today I did a video kayaking with my wife this morning. It was all over the place. And it was just like, it's Facebook Live. I was like, all right, that's what it is, right? So if you can get past yourself and realize that no one cares that your hair is out of place. No one cares that you trip over a word. No one cares. What they want is the purest you, just true you. And man, they'll just love that. And it's true. And I'm sure you tell people this all the time, It's
absolutely true. The warts, the wrinkles, everything that makes them feel more relatable to you, or more relatable to them. Was there a time when I just literally went to your YouTube channel and went and found the oldest one? It's called Secrets of Business Mastery, and it shows a soccer ball in the thumbnail. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, there's older ones than that. Older ones.
Okay.
There's older ones than that with me in the backyard.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, I have a Hachimaka on one of them.
Oh yeah, I see it. And you're shaven.
Oh yeah, that's some old school stuff, baby.
Yeah,
that's old school. And I show people that, and I say, look, this was a time where I knew that to create impact, and I'm sure a lot of listeners here want to create impact. In order to create impact, you have to get over yourself. Yeah. You really do. And it's funny because me and my wife, I'm going to do a webinar tomorrow. What's today? Today's Monday. Oh, Wednesday night. Sometimes I do webinars with my wife's on it. Like if we're doing relationship stuff, like we start getting a little argument right on the webinar in front of like 50 or 100 people. And like,
that's when people really lean in, right?
Yeah, they're like, they love it. And I'm like, oh, did you want me to bring you some like fake? You want me to just like act like we never disagree or something? Or do you just want the real world? And people want the real world. They are so bored of the fancy, perfect position because they don't see it as real that they could ever get there.
Totally get it. And you probably have made a few posts that were controversial, right? Where you had people saying, "Oh, this is bullshit," or "How dare you," kind of stuff. And that's also the kind of stuff that people, whether or not they realize it, they're helping you by engaging in that way, because it just gets more people on, and you're just going to reach a larger audience, unbeknownst to the people who are trying to tell you and set you straight. I
say the same thing every time, Ken, with controversy. I just say, I love you, you win.
That gets them even more. Yeah.
Cuts the anchor off. There's none. If they come back with something else, I'm just like, F you. I'm like, I still love you. You still win. Like because a rubber band, right? Like there's only pressure on a rubber band if two sides pull.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're trying to pull the rubber band. I'm like, no, I let go. Okay, pull all you want. I'm just I'm not gonna play with it. We're not gonna do that. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. So could you tell me right now, just high level, kind of overview of the process is fine. You said you've created some content with FuDog Group, and do you have a full-time team member, or are you outsourcing that to somebody else, and how do you come up with the ideas of what to talk about?
Well, we have 10 people on our team, and 7 of them are full-time. 3 of them are some kind of outsourced resource that we use, but they act like they're on our team. And normally, this is how I create everything. Like Wednesday night when I do the webinar, it's called the chaos method. Like I look at the world and I see where the world is suffering and what do they need to remove suffering. So I'll come up and I'll go, well, the world's in chaos. So I'll start to create an outline of how have I solved chaos? And then I'll send it to my team, and the team will take it from there and they'll get the graphic design. It's very efficient. Aaron, who's one of our business partners with me and my wife, like he has a whole team of implementers, and he's just like, okay, graphic design. And now we use some outsourced companies that build out the funnel, and then another one's going to do the Facebook ads for it. It's just a lean. Let me give a big switch, probably not for you, but for me. When I started to build the team as my own internal agency, the way they functioned, everything changed for me. Because one, I didn't want an agency, even though I think some are really good, but I like to touch some things and get my hands a little with my feedback. And so I created my own version of an agency on how everything gets put together. And I still do, I know a lot of people don't do their own personal Facebook post. Like I still do my own personal Facebook post, and I still answer all my private messages myself. I refuse to give it over to a VA. When people respond to me, I say, this is not a robot, it's me. Because I love people, and I love when I post, it makes me sharper every time. And I'm not telling anybody this is the right thing to do. I'm just telling you what I do. At my level of success, I still do posting. Now, my Instagram has my team post, and they do the YouTube and all that stuff. But as for if someone hits me up on Telegram or they private message me on Instagram, it's me, because I watched, Ken, too many gurus get too big for themselves, too disconnected from the world, and they think they become above the people, and they forget that they are the people. And so And I've managed to do that and love it. And like I said, build really big empires and exit big empires. I mean, even now I have FuDog Group, but I also have another company that we're building. Tomorrow I'm going to sign a deal, an equity deal that we're doing. And we're working on taking on 50 companies in the next 5 years to do equity deals with. And yeah, super fun.
That's inspiring. I've seen that evolution in somebody else too, who, started their own business and then their own training business around it. And now just going into private equity, which is, seems to be that evolution is like you said.
The 10-year evolution, man.
There you go. 10 years. 10 years.
A whole bunch of my friends are doing it now. A lot of your friends too. We don't have to say the names, but they're your friends and you know them too.
Yeah.
And I've watched all of us on the evolution. The cool thing is we're all talking to each other. And it's one thing because you're in the other group that we're in. Like everything I do, I bring it right to the group because I don't want people to be, I know what it's like to be intimidated. And I so get cranked up, Ken, when I'm around people and they're like, oh, I'm doing all this cool stuff. And they never share what they're doing with the cool stuff. You've never been that way. Anytime I've hit you up, I'm like, what's with the camera? What is this thing? You're one of those guys that you always come back. You're like, oh, let me help you. But the rest of the world's not like that. That's why soon as I solve something, I'm like, don't be intimidated. Here's what I did. Yeah. This is how I did it.
Yeah. That is something. Well, thank you for that. And I do honestly, I think there are some people who are a bit annoying and they're constantly hitting me up for tech support. And I'm just go to this group, check them out. But when it's people I have a real connection with that we spent time together, I'll take time, it makes sense. You know who Mr. Beast is, right? And I want to respect Mr. Beast on YouTube.
I don't, no.
No? Okay. So he's probably the highest earning YouTuber in the world. He does things like I buried myself alive in a coffin for 24 hours. I ate zero food for 30 days. He does these stunts. And his average budget for producing his videos is $3 to $4 million that he spends per YouTube video. And he was talking about how when he started, which was 8 years ago, and I want to respect your time. Do you have 2 extra minutes?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm writing down Mr. Beast now.
Mr. Beast, look him up. I was watching his podcast where he was being interviewed, and he was saying how when he started, he got together with these 3 other YouTuber nerds who were just at the beginning, less than 1,000 subscribers. And what they did is he just said, hey, I want to grow my channel. You want to grow your channel. We both are embryonic in our stages. So let's every single day talk on Zoom and just share what we learned every day. And he said that they'd talk from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. sometimes, nonstop, just what type of thumbnail, what type opening, what type edit. And they kept doing that for 5 years. And at this point, he said every single one of them are over 10 million subscribers on their YouTube. And he's at 50 something million. And definitely the highest earner on YouTube in the world. Wow. And he just said for 5 years, every single day, they just shared. And he says he goes to these conferences with other YouTubers and they're like, oh, I got this little hack, this secret. And I don't want to tell you because it's going to ruin the marketing. It's like that you don't grow by keeping the secrets. You grow by sharing it and the analogy he made is let's say that you're 300 mistakes away from success.
Yeah.
You could do all 300 of them yourself, but if there's 3 people doing it, then you're going to take turns making those mistakes, and then you'll get there in 100. You just have to make your portion of the mistakes. So I heard that, and that was just this morning. I was like, that's really cool. That's really cool. And
it's a scarcity mindset. I will tell you that, first off, people give the world a lot of credit that you think that they're going to take your idea and be able to evolve it. I used to tell people, I'm never worried about anybody knowing what I'm doing because it's really tough to catch a freight train or the bullet train. That's really tough. And as long as you always maintain being the bullet train, you could give everything. And by time someone tries to duplicate it, as soon as I execute something, Ken, and I give a new thing out, I've already started to evolve it to the next level. Yeah. That's why nobody's been able to chase me in the world and I've been able to outgrow so many people is because I'm like, okay, I just built this training. Perfect. As soon as I'm done with the training, I get on with my whole team and said, how would we make that look like baby food training? and we rebuild the whole thing again, and now it's ready for the future.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome strategy. And then you're not sitting there going, oh, so-and-so copied my picture on my ad. I'm like, okay, because you're moving too slow. Yeah.
Moving too slow.
I'll tell you funny, this will be funny. You know what I used to do back in when I was growing the service company, Ken? People, don't judge me for this, all right? No judgments. I used to pick all my competitors and I'd create a crazy ad that was completely off. It was an offer that made it sound so ridiculous, and I used to mail it to my competitors. My competitors are the only ones that got it. I never ran the offer to the world. It was just because they were messing with me so much. I said, I'll make them think I'm going to do this like product at 50% the price. Like nobody can do it. And it would start this buzz, and why it was like a magic trick, why everybody was wondering what I was doing over here. Like, how's he doing it? I wasn't. I was over here building an empire. So just a funny little strategic.
Throw all the copycats off your tail.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, I want to respect your time, and I want to appreciate how much you've brought to the table. And what I love is you don't need. No one needs to. When I say no one, I mean specifically you. The way you talk, the way you present, the way you share your message. I could have. We didn't even have to talk about numbers, but people would have sensed the authority in your voice, because I feel like there's no filters. It's the real you. You're not having to overthink anything before you say it. And I think just that one quality alone, if more people mastered that, their content would deliver at a much higher level. They wouldn't need to prop it up with fancy graphics, fancy studios, fancy cameras, and fancy editing. Yeah. I think all of that it's helpful, but there's nothing will ever beat authenticity, the directness in your voice. Thank you so much for sharing. If there's any last thing you want to mention to my audience, and also don't forget, if somebody does want to get in touch with you and learn about what you're doing now, FuDog, and potentially work with you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so go to FuDogGroup.com. That's FUDOG Group, GROUP.com. Just go there and check out my website. It's brand new. We've done a lot of work in it. You'll probably pick up some tips and tricks. Go check it out. Also on there, we have a free Facebook group that's called Personal Growth and Mindset Mastery. So if you're looking to take your mind to the next level, and the last thing I'll leave everyone with is to lead off of what you were saying. My daughter, one day, she was doing a video or something she wanted me to be in. I said, well, what do you want me to do? She's 20 now. This was a couple years ago. And she said something that I think plays out for all of you. She said, you do you, boo. And that just meant just be you. Just be you. So everybody, I'm super honored to talk to all of you today. Ken, and just so everybody listen to everything Ken does. I don't say it because he has me on here. We've been friends for years, and he's the type of friend everybody wants. High level integrity. And I can't wait to end up checking out the Musashi Cave someday and coming to Japan and seeing you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show. And guys, make sure you check the show notes for the links, and check out Mike's links and FuDog Group. Thanks for being on the show, and bye for now.